Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. Guys, I am Mike Spider Slayer, and today by my side I have Cat Comic Uno. We promised to bring you a good show. Sorry we were not here last week, in case you guys did not know. The election was going on, and of course you heard about it for the next 5 days after that with all kinds of recounts and stuff like that. But we wanted you guys to watch that election. So this week we're back. We're going to bring you some of our top 5 comic books. We're going to bring you some great topics, news articles, and of course we're going to talk about Crossover issue 1. Did it blow your mind? Was it worth the hype? So we're going to talk all that and more, guys. And of course we'll take your questions like we do every single week. So welcome, guys. Thank you for taking the time and watching. And I'm going to hand it over to the Cat.
Yeah. Hey guys. Hopefully you had a okay 2 weeks. If we have time, maybe we'll discuss Three Jokers as well. I think we will. Surprisingly, even after 2 weeks of not being here, there's not a lot of news. I think they knew, election was coming. They weren't going to really announce much. Well, first of all, thank you guys for all coming in. I see a lot of highs, some from new faces. So thank you guys. And also, sadly, Brant couldn't make it, and obviously Chris and Michael haven't been able to make it. They'll hopefully be back soon. But with Brant, he has a Kickstarter coming up soon. I'll tag that. I'll talk about my Kickstarter later on as well. That is actually happening right now. I left the link for that. I'll leave Brant's because that's what he's working on right now. He's a busy guy, so he has other stuff he has to do for work too, Kickstarter related. But that's the big thing we want to promote is to follow that page.
Some of the times why you guys wonder why Brant's not on. These guys are comic book creators. Like Kat's a comic book creator, right? She's got her Kickstarter getting going here, and then we have Brant who does a lot of work in the Kickstarter area, as well as he has his own publishing company. So there's times where he can't be on as well. So me, I'm not a creator. I'm just the YouTuber. So that's why you guys always see me week in, week out. So I have great imagination, great creativity, but I know I don't have the time to put all that into a comic book and launch everything. I just know it. I know it. I'm too busy with YouTube and actually tennis instruction. So those are
I don't think you could fit comic writing into there. No. So that would be a little crazy. But well, Tevye, we just talked about where everyone was. So just rewind a couple of seconds because we just talked about it. So yeah, let's get into the news. First up, let's start talking about Donny Cates, because we're going to talk a lot about him tonight. Thor came out, we have Crossover to talk about. But first up is that God Country is getting a spinoff, which I haven't read. But what I thought was really interesting about this was what a few creators are doing is this, pay what you want digital format. And this might, be the future of comics in some way. So pay whatever you want. If you want to pay a cent, you can pay the creator a cent. If you want to pay them $20, pay them $20. And obviously, like we're talking about Kickstarter and stuff like that, indie creators like me and Brant would not be able to do that. But it's kind of cool to see other creators who have a much, much bigger reach experimenting with something like this. And also with a series that already has a fan base, so it's a little bit easier.
Yeah, God Country is a good book. Is actually the first book I actually read from Donny Cates, and I thought it was a very, very good book and remind me a lot about Thor in many ways. Magical sword, and gives a guy that has Alzheimer's, gives him a lot of power and abilities, gives him his life back so he can spend time with his family. Like, I thought it was a really good series. And Kat, if you do have a chance to check it out, it is really a good read.
Do a trade. You read Baby Teeth Volume 1. I'll read God Country Volume 1.
I ordered Baby Teeth at my comic book shop last week.
Oh, did you?
It's actually coming. They didn't have a copy in the shop, so he ordered it for me. $14 it costs, so it's being delivered to the shop for me.
I really like it. The issue is that it never comes out and it's not done. Like, it's far from done. So that kind of sucks. But it's a good book.
Yeah, but by them making a spin-off series on that, that's cool. And making it digital pay anyway, I think is, it is what it is at this point when it comes to digital. I think we're going to get it. I think people are covering their butts, especially when it comes to this, the pandemic, because this proves at this point that you never know what's going to happen in the future. So by them saying, okay, well, we're going to come up with other ways to get our work out there. We can see it from other creators, like Tynion has his own independent stuff that he came out with, so he has his butt covered. You get to see it from Donny Cates now. He's got his butt covered. We got Scott Snyder, who's got his butt covered when it comes to his own label. So
he has his whole own publishing company, which is kind of cool. And I feel like Scott Snyder especially is like really expanding out because he did Kickstarter, and he might do this, pay as you will, and then like have a web comics. I think we're in a really interesting time for comics is the point. And going to the comic book store is going to be a big part of it, but it's not going to be the only part of it. And I think that's important to help grow the community. It's not, obviously we're still going to go to the comic book store, but to lure people into the comic book store, you have to do this first. That way, when they like that book, they're like, oh, I really like that. Yeah. Oh, well, then get the regular God Country in the comic store. So these are the ways to, keep our community alive.
And it keeps like people, like if people don't have access to a comic book shop, at least then they can get these digital comics, right? I mean, you see it, the writing's on the wall. Eventually it's going to happen. I mean, now that you have DC Universe going their digital format, kind of like how Marvel Unlimited is, look at Marvel, look at what Marvel is doing now. Instead of it being 6-month release, it's going to be a 3-month release. That's a big difference. You know what I'm saying? Only 3 months between new comics and you're paying that fee. I mean, what's to say in the near future it's not like a 1-month release? You know what I'm saying? So,
and I'm hoping that, and I'm hoping that prevents people from, pirating. I think that's a big part. It's just like, because people complain, comics are too expensive. How am I supposed to get my comics? Well, they're making it easier for you. You pay a flat rate. You pay what, $60, I think, every 6 months, or is it a year?
No, it's not a year. I think it's like $69 for the year or something like that.
Which is not bad at all.
And you have unlimited
pay for Netflix and get it.
You have unlimited stories. It's like not only do you have the new stuff, but you have all the back history of Marvel on top of it. Like it is worth it. And if you're getting newer comics at a newer time and you need to save money, that's kind of the way to do it,
For sure. So Tevye asks, are comic shops obsolete? No, just like I was saying before, they're all married together. I don't think these options are preventing people to go to the comic book store, because I think the people who go to the comic book store or are weekly, Wednesday warriors, and they're still going to want their comics. I think these are just opportunities to get more people to read comics.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the way to do it. If you want this medium to continue, you need to get it in other people's hands.
Mm-hmm.
And however,
we're gonna die. We're gonna be gone one day.
We're gonna die. It just goes back to just like us older readers. We get fixated on, oh, well, they need to do this with a certain character and they need to do that with it. But you forget that you're not the only one here. Like there's generations before me that this could be the first comic that they're reading. You know what I'm saying? So it all stems to that. Eventually, there's going to be comic book readers that don't know any better but to read their comics online. So as much as we love that comic book shop and we love holding that book, and anybody, like I love holding that book in my hand and smelling it and everything else, but it is inevitable. We see it like year in, year out. It's getting closer and closer to that point where it's going to be digital eventually. Maybe not in the next decade, but it will get there.
Yeah, and I hope it happens later than sooner, because I agree. I love physical comics, and honestly, like I have an opportunity to read most of my comics digitally just because of work, and read it beforehand. But I love the magic of going to the comic book store and getting my haul. So I don't do that unless I have to. I really don't want to read it in advance.
Right. I mean, if we get still comic book shops say way into the future, it might be maybe they'll have very limited physical releases, and that you still find the back issues. You know what I'm saying? Like those back issues are always going to be in high demand. Someone's going to try to buy them. So whether it's at a shop or maybe I guess maybe you'll be only be able to find it on eBay or, websites or something like that,
Or Kickstarter. Who knows? Who knows
Yeah,
what the future
Kickstarter
is?
shit.
We have a really good question from Mike Manhattan. If Donny Cates decides to move to DC, what book would you guys like to see him write? I'm curious if me and Mike will have the same opinion on this. We might.
Uh, it might not be coming to me though at the moment.
Green Lantern.
Green Lantern would be cool because it would be cosmic based. That would be really, yeah, actually, you make a really good point there. There's so much in that universe that you can touch. It would be really cool, especially with all the different lantern cores. Like, yeah, it's limitless there. That would be really cool. You know what I would do would be interesting to see him do would be Superman. Like, could he pull off a Superman?
After reading Crossover, maybe. After reading Crossover, maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. It's he's more of he's more of a being that's from beyond. So could he pull something like that off? That's a very curious question. What would all of the viewers out there, what would you guys like to see him write if he went to DC or wrote a title for DC? Leave in the comments below. Curious to hear.
We also have another question, I think, for you, Mike, but I guess we could all answer it. Rogue Dog, it's me. Hey, buddy, I have around 10K comic books my aunt left me, ranging from 15 cents to current.
Wow.
So that means like you have some Silver Age. I'm a collector and wondered where could be the best place to get rid of them, all of them. Yeah, that's tough.
First of all, I would figure out how much they're worth and see what you have. Once you find out what you have, then, a good place, depending on how much they're worth, do you get rid of them on eBay? Do you sell them to a buyer, a guy that buys collections?
Yeah, at a store, maybe.
There's people here on YouTube that are actually that are buyers that buy collections as well. So you might want to do that because people are looking for those keys, those golden age, those silver age books. And if they're in good shape, then, they might be willing to buy the collection. And then what they'll do is maybe then they'll get it CGC graded. So I would find out how much they're worth first and what you have.
Do your research. Yeah. And it's not that hard to figure it out.
Yeah.
Don't search the comic.
Just don't hand them away. Don't give them away because you could have something really good there. So go through them, see what you have. I know it's a lot of them, but you don't have to do it all at once. Just take your time, find a website that has price values on them and you can get an idea of what they're worth at least, if they were graded. So absolutely.
We got a lot of Superman love for Donny Cates. Yeah. Again, we're going to talk about Crossover and his first lines in that book is about Superman. So I think it'd be kind of cool. I don't know if everyone would love his Superman take though, because I think he would definitely go more of like Immortal Hulk in a way where it'd be more darker. Philosophy. Yeah, darker, like more philosophy driven. More about like what does Superman as a idea stand for. And I actually love that. I feel like we haven't seen that from Superman in a long time. Maybe that's something Superman needs.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, we have a lot of great comments. So thank you guys. Zombie X Dance is surprised about 10K books. That is a lot. Your aunt seems like a really cool person if she had so many books.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if there's a lot of comics. Comics and comments. I like physical comics over digital. Nothing better than holding a comic book in your hands and flipping through the pages.
That's 100% correct, man. I am so on board with physical comics. So nothing will replace that. New Comic Book Day is the best day. And then you read those books and you're just like immersed in that artwork.
Oh yeah. I love just driving up to the comic book store and just getting my books and getting that haul and flipping through them and just like, oh man. And I love just reading through them because I read it all in one day. I love doing that. So Jamie or Jaime asks, have we talked about Crossover? Not yet. So you have some time. We're actually still on the news. We've just been, shooting the breeze about Donny Cates and all that. So we've been having fun doing that.
We'll get through the news pieces, see if any others jump on, and then we'll talk about the issue a bit and about what maybe our expectations are. So yeah, we're going to talk about the other news pieces first.
We are. So we're actually going to dive into that. So Mike, you want to discuss the official Choose Your Own Adventure book coming from Oni Press. Who knew?
Oh my God. If you guys are ancient like I am, right? I'm 45 years old. And when I was a kid, I had a bunch of these Choose Your Own Adventure comic books novels. And I would read them and it's just like, choose your own adventure. Where do you go? Do you go to page 32 or you go to page 48? And it would give you a different outcome. So that's the point of the choose of your own adventure. Now they're making comics. And I'm like, man, that is awesome. Like, I can't wait to see that. But are we going to cheat? Like, are you going to look ahead? Because that's what I did sometimes. I looked ahead. I'm like, what happens here or what happens there? Because you can end up dead or you could like keep going on within the story. That's what was so good about these Choose Your Own Adventure books. So awesome, right? Unfortunately, these comics don't come out till August. So I'm like a little disappointed that we have to wait so long for them. But
to choose your own adventure.
Yeah, no, man. If you guys have not heard of these books again, they are just a lot of fun. It was like a primitive video game, basically. That's what it was. Can't wait for it. I'm so excited for it. And yeah, it's Oni Press, right? That's who's going to be publishing it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, that was awesome. God, I'm so excited. It's like a year away though. It's forever.
I don't think I've ever read an official Choose Your Own Adventure book. I've definitely read those type of stories. Like Black Knight just said, you had terrific issue 25 that did that.
You know what I would curious to see? So if you chose your own adventure, say the main book comes out, do you choose, say issue 1 comes out and it says, choose your own adventure. Do you pick up 1.5 or do you pick up do you pick up the next month? Do you pick up this version of the book or you pick up the other version of the book?
See, talking about physical and digital, I feel like that'd be really cool digital because physical, I don't know if that works budget wise, right? Because only half your customers are buying one comic and then the other half is only buy the other. But digital, it doesn't cost anything to print anything. So why not? I feel like that'd be kind of cool to explore in another medium or not medium, but I guess platform.
Right.
So that was a big news piece about Choose Your Own Adventures, but we're actually going to get into some Batman news, talk about some DC books here. So Tynion is going to have a second Bat title, which I think we're going to learn more about next month. And then as we have the Punchline one shot for us coming out tomorrow, I'm sure for you guys, maybe some have read it, do not spoil it. Supposedly Punchline is also going to be even bigger in 2021. I definitely excited to hear more about this second book, but at the same time, I feel like there's way too much Batman. And this is coming from, I love Batman. He's my favorite franchise of the DC universe, but I don't want only the physical books to be Batman. And that's all we're getting because DC has such limited books. Do we need another Batman title? I don't know.
I'm just curious, like, what he can write that's not currently in the current Batman book, right? So is it a Batman book or is it going to be like a Batman family book? So
I think it's a Punchline book, if I'm being dead honest.
That was my initial thought, too. I'm thinking it's a Punchline ongoing series. That's what I could only think of, unless it's like a Clown Hunter book or something weird that way, but I think it's a Punchline series too.
We got Tizzy who says, I feel the same way, Kat. I love Batman, but at the same time, it's too much. And I only say that because we just have so few books. If we had as many as Marvel, I don't think I would care as much. Mike Manhattan says, you can never have enough Batman. I mean, that's very true. That is very true.
Josh says, Kate's of Justice League Dark would be perfect for any of the characters from there. That actually is a good pick too. Justice League Dark. I can see him doing that too. And I'm trying to think. He has not done any team books. He's only done solo books, right? Venom,
Yeah, true.
God
A lot of
Country.
ensemble characters, though.
Yeah, exactly. So he hasn't done a team. That would be quite interesting.
Let's
Department
get.
of Truth.
Oh yeah, good book. We didn't talk about issue 2. I don't think, did that come out this week or last week?
It was
I don't
last week. I
remember.
didn't get a chance to read it yet. So
It wasn't as good as issue 1, but still a fun book. Let's get into some more Marvel news here. So, speaking of big events, we have King in Black gets a Captain America tie-in and Wiccan and Hulking. The reason I marked it down is just because it's kind of cool after Empire, these two characters get their own one shot. And I'm gonna the same thing that I did with did with Empire. I'm gonna do with King in Black. Just because I read Absolute Carnage, it wasn't quite my thing because I wasn't reading Venom, and I have a feeling it's gonna be the same thing for King in Black. But there's so many tie-ins. I'm just gonna read the tie-ins, so that's the route I'm going.
You're just gonna read the tie-ins. You're gonna read the main event.
Just reading those tie-ins. Maybe issue 1.
This is something completely different, though. Oh my gosh!
That
being is coming to the. Oh jeez.
I just don't know if I'm into him. No, only tie-ins. Wiccan and Hulking. I'm gonna read that Spider-Man tie-in. I'm gonna know what's going on. I'm gonna be fine.
Sure, you will be. This is something a little different than Empire, I think.
No, I've been burned too many times.
Empire exceeded my expectations, but but I do think that the Wiccan and Hulkling title is kind of cool because he's still obviously in charge of everything, and based off of what happened in the most recent Web of Venom issue, it had to do with the Kree and the Skrulls. So you can see that they're kind of still makes sense that they're thrown in the mix. You don't want to completely forget about them, right? So I think it's cool that they do have their own one shot. Captain America, it's not a big deal to me because it's like, oh, well, if everyone else has a tie-in at this point, why can't Cap have one too?
Yeah, why not Captain America? Maybe I'll change my mind when that issue 1 comes out, which I actually think it's kind of soon. I have a feeling I won't. Anytime, again, I like Donny Cates, I do, and we'll talk about crossover and all that. But anytime I feel like I'm not reading a book of his, it's very much ingrained with what he's been doing there. So if I have not been reading Venom by any means. Absolute Carnage, as a critic and as a reader, I understood it was a good book, but there was no connection. It was okay, it's good, it's great, it looks awesome, but why am I reading this? I'm fearful King in Black's going to be the same thing.
We'll see what happens. I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be the event of the decade.
The century.
The century. I don't want to say the year because then I'll probably jinx it since this year has been so shitty.
It has been pretty shitty. I have to say, because we do our best comics of the year posts, and I've been trying to do them a little early just because got a lot going on. So I was trying to do our first batch. And one of our categories is best event, and I have one. It's just Joker War so far because there wasn't a lot that came out. So it's just okay, I like Joker War, I guess. But there hasn't really been any other events besides what Empire came out. Nothing too memorable. Last year was a lot easier because War of the Realms came out and I loved it.
You can count Ten of Swords as an event if you wanted to count that.
See, I don't know if I would put it as my favorite event yet, though, because it's been so slow. It's been fine, but I don't know if it'd be a best event. It does count, though. Wouldn't be. I don't know if it'll be done.
Yeah, it does count.
We'll see when that time comes, which is again a couple of weeks. We got that going. One more news piece, and then we're gonna get into comics. But before that, I'll probably show you guys the Kickstarter and all that. There's a bug. So this was announced today. X-Men is getting another series, and this one's actually called X-Men Legends, and this is gonna be, creators that we've known and loved from the X-Men. So Chris Claremont's gonna be on it. Peter David's going to be on it, and they're just going to tell missing stories or tales from their period of the X-Men. So I thought that was actually I don't know. I don't know if it's an ongoing or not. Not sure. Oh, it's an ongoing series. Says it in the title. I don't know how to feel about that. I feel like the only one I really pick up is Chris Claremont because I'm like, I'd be interested to see what he does. But there's just so much X-Men. But at least this is something different. And maybe for the people that don't like Jonathan Hickman stuff, I personally have been enjoying it. But it's not everyone's cup of tea. This might be good.
Yeah, this might give people the the X-Men that they've been missing, right? Because you said it's missing stories. So that makes sense why if they would do something like that. That's kind of cool. I could see people getting on board with that. That's cool.
I think that was pretty interesting. So before we get into the comics, I just wanted to give a shout to my Kickstarter. So I just wanted to show you guys the page and all that, and let you guys know if you do support this Kickstarter, I will give you my other comic. They call her Dancer for free, the digital comic for free. So definitely, hopefully you guys could support and just let in the comments, or you could just message me, say hashtag Comic Book Weekly, so I know to give it to you. But like Father Like Daughter, it's about a high school girl. Father left her to become a full-time superhero. Everyone in the world loves him except for her, and then she inherits his abilities. For the Dancer, the free book, it's about a young woman who's a dancer / assassin, and when she was little, she witnessed her parents being murdered in front of her, never dealt with that trauma until now. But yeah, just to show you guys what these variant covers look like. Look at that. This is actually from the concept artist of Suicide Squad, the movie. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, I love that. This, if you guys like the hip hop lofi,
I actually like radio. This one is really cool too. I like that one.
Right? It's like, it's cutesy, it's anime. Yeah. It's kind of one of the vibe I was going for it because I was like, I don't want everything to be too serious. But our cover image, which I'm in love with, is Paper Cats.
Yeah, this one is awesome.
Yeah, this is cool. So yeah, it's issues 1 through 7. And also, as I've been putting in the comments, we have the early bird special only going on really until tonight. We have a little bit, I think it goes until like 1 o'clock tomorrow, but really, it's really only until tonight, where you get to get half off of the physical issues. So it's only $5 for the physical issue of issue 7. And then if you've never read the book before, you could get an early digital catch up for $20. I really try and make all the prices very affordable. Just to catch up with the whole book, it's $40. And there's a lot of twists and turns in there. I won't spoil it for you guys. But yeah, I hope you guys get to support it. I'd really appreciate it. Even at $1, you get 9 free books, and there's going to be more free books along the way. So definitely go check it out. And
it's good series, guys. I've read it. And I've even read the Dancer issue 1. Definitely check it out. Give Kat that support.
Yes, please do. We got Tizzy says that they already backed it up. Thank you. And Tizzy, if you want that free comic, just message me, or again at hashtag Comic Book Weekly. Lucy acts what kind of dancer? She's a ballerina. So, yeah, everyone's asking what type of dancer. Lucy, that's not the first time I was asked that question. I won't put it on here, but she is a ballerina. And she's an assassin. But yeah, hopefully you guys can go check it out. And yeah, we're going to get into some comics. So I'll talk about the Kickstarter again at the end. And yeah, we're going to roll.
All right.
We'll talk about the crossovers first.
Yeah.
That's our main topic.
So we'll talk about Crossover, which is obviously the comic. We're going to talk about Donny Cates. We'll talk about all that stuff. So for months and months and months, we've known about Crossover, right? People have seen the image, which basically is the image that I put together when I created the thumbnail about the boy basically reading a comic book and his mind is blown away, right? Kind of represents when you're a kid reading comic books for the first time, you're taking into this other place and your mind is just blown. That's the way I looked at the cover, right? I was like, wow, that's a pretty cool concept, right? So there's all this speculation about what Crossover is going to be. What is Crossover? Is it going to be, crossing over into, people have said, into Marvel, into DC, and Image? People were speculating on that. And just because in the preview art, we saw characters that looked like the heroes that we know, But after reading that book, it doesn't look like that's the case. It's a different type of story. In many ways, but nevertheless, after I got done reading it, I actually enjoyed the book. Was it, I guess, as great as I thought it was going to be? No, because maybe I hyped it up a lot in my mind. But I wasn't expecting this whole crossover event with DC, Marvel, and Image characters to happen. You know, I had a feeling it was going to be something different than what we were speculating on, and the crossover term was exactly what it was. It was just a terminology, the name of the comic book. You know what I'm saying? So, but just the initial first thoughts, I enjoyed the book. What did you think, Kat?
I really liked it. I was actually pleasantly surprised. A lot of these indie books, I kind of like going into it not knowing what's going to happen. And I do agree. There's hype towards like, oh, you thought like, Invincible is going to show up or whatever. But I thought it was a really well crafted story because it's this really meta story about like, do we matter? It's like our story is more important than us. And then you actually get to see like story characters interacting with you in a way, even though you're reading a story. So everyone's a story character. And then the representation of like our superhero is important. And I think this kind of bigger narrative when people ask like, well, why does it matter? Like, I feel like there's this big, in comics or whatever, like something happens to a comic book character is like, who cares? Why does it matter? I think there's like, that's the bigger commentary. It's like, well, this is why it matters, or this is why it doesn't matter. Or maybe none of it matters. And it's kind of this existential story, but I really like the ending as well, that we find out it's a love story between these two characters that don't even interact by the end. Right. So I just like the way it was paced. I just thought it was really different and up my alley. I really liked it.
I just think, I've heard other people dislike this story, and that's fine. But I've heard others as well trash the story. And again, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm not going to be mad at you for it. But I just feel like in a story like this is something that I think you can't just really discredit it yet until you give it a chance to tell its story. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that goes like that with most comic books, I think like even when it goes to the superhero books, like whoever thought when Donny Cates took over Venom that Venom was going to be the way that it was? When he took over Thor, did you think that Thor was going to turn out the way it was? Or when he wrote Thanos, it's the same thing, right? Or even Silver Surfer Black, like people just praise Silver Surfer Black. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you gotta give this type of story time, right? I thought it was very interesting that you would read a comic book, and one of these modern day comic books where the comic book heroes come out and they start destroying this Colorado, and they put a dome over it, and then the next thing you see is people are freaking out because there's this one comic book shop left and they don't want it around anymore. And I thought it was kind of cool. And then you see a comic book character in there as well that comes out of that particular dome. And I just thought all of it was really, for me, it was different. I liked the story. And then I like how she was forced to draw who let her out of that dome. And you're led to believe that obviously it's Superman, but you can't draw the real Superman, but it gives you an idea of what character that is like.
We have a lot of comments, so I do want to read some here. MK says, I found Tynion's Department of Truth much more compelling. It plays with the same ideas as Cates Crossover. See, I liked Crossover more than I liked the Department of Truth, because I think Department of Truth was very much more about setting. Not that it's not about the main character, but I felt a little bit less attached to him because it was more about like this crazy idea of conspiracy theories. Here it is definitely about like the characters and in the world too, but I felt ingrained by the characters. There was also another question or comment, and I'm trying to find it, but supposedly this story came from a near-death experience from Donny Cates, and they didn't understand how that came about. I didn't know that portion, but I definitely could see why it came about, because this whole entire book is like, again, do we matter? And I think as a writer, it's like, well, what I'm writing, does it matter? Right? Like, it's like this kind of bigger question of what's my role in the world? And I thought that was really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, this book was good. And I just think it's, you see this first issue and it's just beginning to scratch the surface. I loved kind of the comic book characters that were in here, even that represented the real world. Like, you have the comic book shop owner whose name is Otto, which I think was kind of cool. And then you got Elle. I think she was a kind of cool character as well. Like what was she? The comic book shop. She just worked there, right? Is
I
that
think
who
she
she
just
was?
worked there. Yeah.
Right. And then you had the other boy that was the priest's kid or something like that.
I think it was the
Uh,
son, yeah. And I think
yeah.
he was like reading a comic and the priest got upset because one thing, because I see some questions here, is that the world here, people don't like comic characters because they pretty much
Right.
the comic book characters like the coronavirus in this world, right? I know
Yeah.
this was written before that, but like you're not going to be friends with the coronavirus. You're not going to like the coronavirus.
Right.
That's kind
They
of like
caused
the idea of it.
they caused all this destruction in the world. So it's like, why are you going to have a comic book shop? You know what I'm saying? So it's just like the comic shop is kind of like the devil these days. It's kind of like how comics used to be looked at back in the day, like in the early day when comics were burned and stuff like that. That's kind of the way it is now again, before this whole crisis that happened, before the heroes happened. So they only sell all those old comic books.
And that's the big commentary because I know Mike knows this, but maybe for you guys that don't, Donny Cates was, worked in a comic book store before he was a writer, like he was a retailer. So you could definitely tell the influence of like, this is coming from a retailer's point of view. And I agree, Mike, it also kind of delves into the history of comics and how people felt about them.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I thought it was a well-written book, in my opinion. I love the artwork. I thought the artwork was gorgeous. I think it matched the story as well. I'm interested to see how this girl that came out of that dome that like looks like an old school comic book character, like what's her role in this whole thing? You know what I'm saying? Like, is she gonna like it's going to be weird. Like, is she going to spread her comic book madness everywhere? Because look at how people looked at her. They looked at her as like the coronavirus. Like, it's like, oh my God, you're going to the coronavirus. It's like you're going to get sick if you come close to her. Like she was an outcast or something like that. So very interesting the way we looked at her as a character in this book.
Well, and our main character, I guess she's our main character. If she's from that world, because she doesn't have the dots, but then she's like, my parents are trapped there. So there's definitely like this mystery of what this other world was, which is comics.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot more characters in this book. And again, we don't even know the beginning of the story. How is this an ongoing, or is this like it is a mini series?
I think it's ongoing. The thing with Image is that I feel like they never really announce when it's an ongoing, or if it's like a max series.
Or it's an ongoing until it just ends, right? Until the story has been told and then it ends.
Yeah, I don't know how many issues it would end up being. I can see this one going for a while, but then it goes back to like Donny Cates has all these other indie books that he hasn't finished. Has he really finished an indie book yet?
He finished God Country.
And now there's
you said he's still reading Baby Teeth. He's still writing Baby Teeth.
He's still writing Baby Teeth for sure.
Yeah, but then he's got all his Marvel stuff and stuff like that. But and going back to like, if you compare him to past writers and things like that, I mean, that's cool. But I know there's people that were dogging on this book, and you got to realize, again, if you dog on a comic book, you got to remember that this guy spent a lot of time writing this thing, right? And not only is it him that's involved, but it's his whole creative team that's involved. So when you affect him by trashing on a book, you're affecting all the people around him. Okay, so, and remember, this could be someone's first comic book. So when you trash on a book like this, remember, someone could really like this, or you're deterring them for them. So we understand if you don't like it, but just don't call it trash or crap or anything like that. I just think that's just disrespectful in many ways.
Yeah,
so,
be critical. I think
right.
I agree. I hate kind of both sides too, where like you really like a book and you're just like, it's great, and you have nothing to say of why. Obviously that's less offensive and the worst part, but I think, yeah, be critical. Say why you really like a thing. Say if you don't like it, don't say this sucks because it's trash, because it's poop. No, just say like, oh, I didn't like it because personally this isn't, like what I said about Absolute Carnage earlier. I didn't say it was trash or poop because I obviously don't believe that. And I said, hey, it wasn't my thing because of this and that. But I know it was a well-written comic because of that and that. So yeah, just try to be more critical when it comes to comics because people put their heart and soul into it. And also don't at people when you're saying something negative. I see a lot of that. Is like people are like, people elevate other creators and then they're like, but except, like earlier I saw someone was complimenting James Tynion for his Batman run, and they added Tom King as like, unlike Tom King's run, which is shit or whatever they said. I'm like, why are you adding this person and trying to elevate another person by being crappy about someone's writing? So just like, don't do that. Be a good human being.
Yeah. Just be respectful. That's all. But going back to the book, what would you like to see out of this book, Cap?
I don't even know. I feel like there is so much introduced into this world that it's hard to say what I want to see. I would say I want to see more of the individual characters. So if we saw, in the point of view of Ellie, I think her name was, if we saw it from her point of view, I want to see it from like the priest kid's point of view at some point. Like I want to really see the cast build and grow because I think that's going to be the strongest aspect of the book.
I think what I want to see is, how I love seeing the world destroy and then pick itself back up again. So I want to see what happened inside once that dome was created, what has happened to all those people, and what heroes are in there, what villains are in there, obviously that are supposed to be like Superman or Spider-Man, or you know what I'm saying? Like I want to see that aspect of the comic. That's what I'm looking forward to. And does this happen in other parts of the United States? This has happened again. That's what I'm very curious to see. There's so much here to this story. I have a feeling, and we just haven't even gotten started yet.
Yeah, I'm excited to definitely dig into it as we get into it more. We actually have a question from Terry. I'm very curious about this. Hey, Mike, you could write a comic, which you can't because you don't have enough time. But if you had all the time in the world, would it be a superhero comic or a non-superhero comic?
I actually have concepts of characters that I have already created. I have a whole slew of them. I have about 7 or 8 of them that I physically have created. So it would have to be a superhero book. But let's take it a step before that. Even before that, I actually wrote my own Spider-Man comic book. And this was before, oh man, I'm trying to remember. I think it was before Superior Spider-Man that I wrote this. And I had Dr. Octopus in it or somewhat. And it was like one of these ideas that I came up with before it actually happened in a comic book. And
I do remember this. Like, yeah, I remember that.
Dan Slott's run. And I'm like, his run came out. And I'm like, holy shit, I read about this because I actually published it on, was it Comic Frontline's website?
I think, yeah, we had like a fan fiction thing for a very, very short amount of time.
Yeah.
When we used to be a Blogspot.
Yeah. So I published it. So literally it would be obviously Spider-Man stuff. That's what I've always loved to write about because he's my favorite hero. I wrote my own comics when I was like 15. And then I did this one. And then I branched off and I started, writing some other characters as well. But again, it's just, I don't have the time, man, but I wish I did. There's just not enough me. I need to be cloned.
Oh yeah, for sure. There just needs to be more hours in the day, but I feel like if there's more hours in the day, you'd just be doing all that other stuff that we all need to do. So I don't even know if that ends up helping. But yeah, it may one day.
So, and also in the comments too, I would love to hear what you guys think of Donny Cates' writing overall, and maybe what your favorite story is from him at this point. That's I'm curious to hear, as we go through through our comic books and stuff like that.
I can see Crossover maybe being my favorite. I'm actually pretty excited to see where this goes. For me, I think it's still Baby Teeth. I really like that book.
I loved Thanos. I thought that was phenomenal. I read that trade on a plane ride to Detroit. And I remember reading it and I was blown away by it. And that's when I was introduced to Silver Surfer Black. And I was like, wow, this is pretty badass. And so ever since then, I've been hooked on his writing. And I kind of have that similar feel. Like, he's done a great job with Venom. But something that I'm even more intrigued with is Thor. I am thoroughly enjoying his Thor run right now. And even though there's not nearly as many issues as, say, Venom is right now, it has some strong potential of being one of my favorite comics from Marvel.
I really like that Jane Foster cover that came out this week.
Oh, yeah,
that looked really cool.
Variant was cool, even though Jane Foster had nothing to do with that story.
No, yeah, I didn't get it. I kind of wish I did just for the cover. I did get which I think I showed online. I actually got a CGC'd version of it too, a 9.8 of the Blackest Night Stephanie Brown variant cover. And I saw that from your group. I didn't even know it existed. I'm like, oh, gotta go buy that. I did.
Yeah. Yeah, for every you guys that are not members of my Facebook group page, just go on to Comic Book Corner 2.0, Webheads Unite. Just go on there. I'll approve you. You guys can share your comic book hauls, your collections, anything that you want on there. On my comic book day hauls, you might be shouted out on some of your pictures. So go ahead and join it. It's absolutely for free, guys. It's a lot of fun. The community that's grown on that Facebook group page has been awesome. So yeah, go ahead and check it out if you haven't yet.
Yeah, definitely go check it out. It's a lot of fun. A lot of comments here. Thank you, guys. And I guess we're going to go into our Under the Radar next.
All right. So, Under the Radar. So, guys, just to let you know, we're going to be talking about the comics now. So, any of your, comics that you want to talk about, feel free to comment on as well. Just letting you know that there are spoilers. So, if you have not read your comic books, or if there's a comic book that we're talking about, just pause it or mute it or whatever the case may be, so we don't spoil anything for you. But yeah, hey, this is Andre Snell from Port St. Lucie, Florida. I am in Sanford, Florida, so we're not so far from each other. We're about 2.5 hours away.
Damn.
Barbarian is on the show. Yeah, the group is awesome. No negativity at all. That's good. See, I got a recommendation right there from Bavarian herself. So she was actually one of the first people to join it. So that's pretty cool. All right. So, Kat, you ready to talk about some comic books?
I am ready.
All right. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is Under the Radar. And my Under the Radar book was actually, trying to remember what it was, Sweet Tooth, or The Return of Sweet Tooth issue.
You read the original, or?
I never did. And so I decided to read this one to see, okay, can I jump on and see what it is about? I still don't know if I can understand what's going on, but all as I know is it definitely had me hooked to read issue 2. Did you read the original?
No, I've never read it, which I really like Jeff Lemire. So
yeah, so it's done by Jeff Lemire, and the artwork, I forgot who the artwork is done by. But we've seen his artwork by, it's the same artist that did Trillium. You remember that book?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's the same artist that did Trillium. And it's about this boy who's like this half-breed, right? Of like, I don't know, moose or reindeer or whatever he is.
I know the horns exist.
Yeah, he's got antlers on his head, right? And in this book, he's kind of like, he's trapped in this like world, in this bubble, in this forest. And there's this fence. And when he goes to this fence, there's these robotic like creatures or whatever they are. And they're just like, you can't pass the fence or you'll be punished. And he gets real angry. And he's like, when I was a boy, you could tell me your lies and blah, 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 blah. I'm changing inside. I'm getting older. I'm getting stronger. He talks to this, which is his dad or whatever it says, and says, you have to stay here. You can't be, you can't go out there. You need to stay with us until you die. And then you go to heaven and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, okay. And then he winds up sneaking out. and he finds this whole other world that he's never even knew existed before. And he runs into this guy, and I was like, okay, I don't know who this guy is, but it seems interesting to me. Like for some reason I was just like, I need to read more of this. And in fact, what I need to read is I need to read the first freaking volume of this. So I will probably check out two. And this is done by DC Black Label. So this seemed pretty cool.
Let me know if you like the first volume of the comic as well. If
Yeah.
you
Yeah, I will eventually. So what was yours?
Mine was Black Widow, issue whatever we're up to, issue 3, I think. I've been blown away by this comic because I mean we talk about this every single time. None of us here really like Black Widow that much, or at least haven't been able to get into a series of her. But Kelly Thompson, as always, has just been topping it, and she got me into Black Widow, and I actually think this is the strongest first arc writing in a comic. I feel like a lot of times her comics do well after the first arc, like as they grow on you, or do best because they're always great. But this is like, right from the get-go, I'm super intrigued by Black Widow and her kind of remembering her old life, but not really. And we're seeing that definitely in this issue where she kind of figures out, okay, yeah, I don't know if this is actually my life. She doesn't fully figure it out, and I'm excited to see that journey because it's also her kid. We find out, so like, how did this all happen? We get a little bit more from the villains. Artwork is really good for this book too. There's so many good action sequences. So if you're not reading Black Widow, jump on. It's a really easy jumping on point as well, which is kind of hard to find sometimes in these mainstream comics.
Yeah, this book is really good. Like I was like waiting for a Black Widow book that I would like, and this book is it in so many levels because it's different, right? I mean, it's like Big Brother going on in Black Widow. That's basically what it is. People watching her do her every move, and the pacing is really good. The character interactions are really good. Like you said, the artwork is phenomenal. She's I guess she's drawn very sexy, but it's very in a classy way. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. It's not sexualized, it's sexy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And what's it called? And I love the character interactions between Clint and Bucky in this book as well. It is hilarious, like how they're spying on her, keeping track on her, and just, how Clint was actually interrogating her as well in this book as well. Just overall, I think that was in the second issue where they were interrogating her. He was just like, yeah, how about your bike? And, trying to figure out, and she didn't recognize him. So it's like so many really good moments in this book. And now you're starting to see the story unfold a little bit. And the ending of this issue was awesome, man. And it's just like, and she realizes, hey, I'm just not some normal like housewife with a kid. I want to know where the kid is from,
Yeah, because that mystery.
Yeah, and I want to know this husband. Like, who's this husband? Like, where did he come from? Like, does he not know who he is either? And the babysitter I had no idea who the babysitter was. I was trying to make out who it was at first, and then I'm like, who is this babysitter? And then they let you know. I read issues 2 and 3 back to back today. So, and I was like, man, like, and then I figured it out when they showed it. I'm like, oh, that's who the babysitter is. I should have known, right?
Yeah, I didn't even like put two and together. I didn't even know we were supposed to know who the babysitter is until issue 3. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm just so excited to see where it goes. And again, knowing Kelly Thompson, her books just get better. She's not one of those writers who only like writes a good first arc. Because sometimes her first arcs aren't always perfect. Like I liked West Coast Avengers more as it went on. I like Captain Marvel now more as it went on. And this, I'm like, whoa, it's starting out already great. And that's awesome.
I love the little Easter eggs in this book too. Like her dog's name is Logan, which I thought is hilarious. And Jeff the Land Shark is in this book as a little stuffed animal.
I didn't see that.
You didn't see that? Yeah. So that's funny too. So it's really a great book. I love this book just as much as you do. I saw you put it on your radar, so I was like, I'm not gonna put that on there. I'm gonna put freaking Sweet Tooth on there, which in its own right, it's a good book. I give Jeff Lemire all the credit in the world for what he does. Great
And I'm sure if
independent
you read
story.
the other stuff, it would have been even higher.
Yeah. So welcome to all the new viewers that showed up. So
Thank you so much.
welcome, guys, and thank you. We'll get to your questions kind of as we go. I know we have people asking about Stillwater. We'll definitely talk about Stillwater, because we love that book. We definitely will talk about it because it comes out tomorrow.
Does it?
Come out
I don't
tomorrow?
think
Or
so.
next week?
Maybe the week after. But either way, we're loving it. I think me and Mike especially, because I believe it was me and you who had it in our pick of the week last time.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, we both had it as our pick of the week.
It's a solid book. If you're not reading it, definitely go out there and read it. Just a
November 18th.
quick little thing. It's about a town that you go to. Okay. When you go to this town, nothing happens. You don't age. You don't get sick. You can't die. Or if you die, you get revived. It's kind of like if you were Wolverine, right? Something happens to you, you regenerate. And then as soon as you leave the town, you can die. You can get sick. You do get old. So it's an interesting concept for a story. Read it. I think you'll enjoy it. Done by Chip Zdarsky. Really great story.
Oh yeah.
So, it looks like from Mount Kim we got him to buy Black Widow.
Oh, nice. It's so easy to get into. And I didn't mention this before, but me and Mike both tried the Mark Waid book. And I remember we were both excited for it because we really like Daredevil. It's and for me, I never liked Daredevil before that. So I'm like, if he could get me into Daredevil, he'd get me into Black Widow.
Nope.
No. I couldn't get into it. And then this, I feel because a lot of times Black Widow is just the spy. And that's all they do with her. She doesn't really have much of her personality from what I've read. I'm sure she does, but just from the first issues I've read, I never could get into her personality. But this one's right from the start, because she's not a spy. They're able to marry.
She's like a normal person.
Yeah. Depending which direction it goes, hopefully it doesn't just go super spy after this. I hope they can balance both.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with it. All right, so let's move on now. Oh, Sweet Exorcist says, Kelly Thompson also did a fantastic job on the Rogue and Gambit book last year. She also writes Emma very well. Yeah, she does write
Emma so well. Yeah.
All right, so we talked about crossover. We did talk about that topic for the people that are just joining us. So if you need to go back a little bit ways, probably about 10 minutes ago, that's when we talked about, Donny Cates Crossover, what we thought of the book and whatnot. But overall, Kat and I really enjoyed the book. We're looking forward to issue 2. And we think that, this is just obviously just the beginning of a story that has a lot to be told here. So please give it a chance if you wasn't too keen on issue 1. All right, next we're going to talk about Batman issue 102. So when it comes to issue 102, we get introduced to the Ghostmaker. He's basically a teen rival of Bruce Wayne, and we got to see that here. He's kind of like an opposite of Bruce Wayne, right? We get to see Ghostmaker, who's white costume, and Batman is black. He's the Dark Knight, and it looks like they're fighting for the rights of Gotham. What did you think of the Ghostmaker, Kat?
He was cool. I don't know if he really impressed me like Clown Hunter or Punchline. I remember both those characters didn't impress me from the first issue. It took a while for me to like them. So I think he has some good possibilities as a character. And I think this was a good overall issue after Joker War. It gives us some relaxation time from Punchline and the whole Joker stuff. There's small moments I really liked. I really liked Harley. I think she's one of the best parts of Tynion's run. I like Batgirl being Oracle and hopefully the opportunity of her being Batgirl and Oracle at the same time as we see more of her. But I didn't like the art because there was such a drastic change in the middle that really took me out of it.
I agree with you. I had to flip back and forth, and I'm like, this is definitely an art change. And I'm looking at the artist. I'm like, oh yeah, this is why they did that. I had no idea.
time, maybe. I don't know, but it was way too different. Like the second artist had absolutely no detail. Their faces looked mushed together. And I really liked the first artist, so kind of like didn't ruin the issue for me, but it's not on my top 5 because of that.
Right. I enjoyed the story too. I thought that one of the cool moments was obviously Barbara being Oracle, because this kind of solidifies that she is going to be Oracle going forward. She is going to be that voice in Batman's ear that takes over for Alfred. That's basically kind of what she is. So, and then when she can be Batgirl, or when she wants to be, she probably can put on the suit and go out there. But she made it a thing about Stephanie and Cassandra wearing the symbol representing Batgirl. You know what I'm saying? So obviously you're going to see those two in the comic, in the comics in the near future, like we all anticipated, so
maybe that second book, who knows?
Yeah. So I think I like this issue too. Again, it wasn't like my favorite issue, but I did like it. All right. So let's see. What do we see here? Some comments here. Steve White. Some are saying that Ghostmaker is kind of a ripoff off of Moon Knight.
I don't think I know enough about Moon Knight to say if he's a ripoff or not.
We don't know if he's kind of like schizo or has multiple personalities, right? But I could understand like the character design, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. Lucy M. Star. LOL. Moon Knight's kind of a ripoff of Batman.
Honestly, true. So I guess they're just trying to get their payback there.
Right. And then remember that Moon Knight is schizophrenic, and then that's what I just said too. So all right. So let's move on. So we had our Batman discussion. So now we're going to talk about Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood. So from what I heard, there was a Harley Quinn that was like a black, white, and red.
There was the digital book.
Digital book, yeah. So I never read that. But when it comes to Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood, this book is an anthology book, so it has multiple different stories in it. So if you're not into anthology books, then you don't need to pick this up. You don't need to pick this up to understand what's going on in the X-Men book. But what is cool is that it's black, white, and red. So you have just cool. 3 main colors in it. So for this type of style of book, it fits the Wolverine character because he does a lot of slicing and dicing. And so what represents red? Blood, right? So you get to see a lot of that in this particular book. Plus, this book is what people are saying is a possible spec book because I think it was one of the variants. I have one of the variants. I have the main cover and a variant book where it has an actual misprint in there, or it's a printing issue where it has the Web of Venom Empire pages inside of it. It's actually got 2 issues in it. And so are 2 pages of that issue inside of it. So it's a printing error. So a lot of people are specking on that book that it could be worth some money because comic shops were told to hand in their copies, like tear them up, get rid of them, don't sell them.
Oh,
so
that's
it definitely, I don't know, could have some more money. But yeah, my book has got like the first page of the Web of Venom Empire issue, and then the second to last page.
And that came out this week, the Web of Empire, or did that come out?
Yeah, it came out this week also. So that's where the printing issue got messed up. So it's kind of cool. So, but overall, that story was kind of cool. The stories were fun to read, and I enjoyed it. Will I pick up issue 2? Maybe. I guess we'll see what kind of week it is. I think the covers are really awesome, and the interior art was really cool too.
I feel like anthologies are so hard for me to like get on a continuous basis. I'm like, they're all short stories,
Yeah, it wasn't too bad though because it wasn't like, say, a Batman anthology 80th anniversary where it's like story after story. There was only 3 of them in there.
No,
It's not bad. All right, So let's talk about our number 5. And my books are right over on my long box of Marvel comics. So let me get those, Kat. You can go on
Okay.
your number 5.
Well, mine is Power Rangers, so I'm sure you're glad that you're leaving. Mine is Mighty Morphin issue 1. I like the issue. I think there was some good mystery of who this new Green Ranger is. There's some good character interactions overall. I will say it's not very new reader friendly. So if you haven't been reading Power Rangers, I don't know how much you're gonna learn from this one. But I liked it. I've been reading Power Rangers. I don't think it's the best issue out of all the runs, but it was a pretty solid beginning.
Okay. Are you going to continue it?
Yeah, I've been reading Power Rangers. It's going to take it would be very hard for me to drop it.
Gotcha. All right. That's Power Rangers. Steve White asked, is Wolverine Black, White, and Blood a limited series book? I think it is. I think you can only tell. Yeah, well, I think it was, I know, maybe it's like 5 issues or something like that. So we'll see what happens with that. Is that Snatch Face, the Fool? Says, hey, everyone.
Very interesting. Very interesting name.
Welcome to the show, guys. Glad you're here. All right, so my number 5 is, and I think this came out last week, but I read it for the first time today because my shop's copy was damaged, but it was Chew issue 4. So I think yeah. So even though I read it this week, that was my number 5. Probably otherwise Batman would have been my number 5, but
that was my number 6. So I think we're in the same area for Batman.
Yeah. But Chew issue 4 was good, man. I mean, we get to see Saffron Chew kind of go down the tubes. Her brother finds out who she is and that she is the criminal. And I love her using her powers, like finding out how she gets information from her people. And then we get to see how Detective Chew finds out, how he gets information from his people. I just love the overall story. I just think it's a lot of fun. I love her as a character, and now we're going to see the two brother sister go at it with each other because they're holding guns at each other at this point. So I love this story. So I don't know. What did you think about this last issue?
Yeah, no, I liked it. My question for you, because I guess it kind of goes into Tevia's question, is Chew a prequel? Because I know Saffron is a character that kind of was created for this book.
No,
it's not. She's been in other issues.
No, this is her point of view.
So she's been in the original Chew.
I don't think you saw her in the original Chew.
So that was my question. Is
right.
So it plays in the timeline of regular Chew, except now it's from her point of view. But she was never really a character in regular Chew, so that's interesting.
Right. I think see, I don't remember because it's been so long since I have read the original series, so I would have to go back and read it to see how much you see of her. But the main focus of the book was on Detective Tony Chew and him dealing with the bird pandemic, the bird flu, and how he interacted with all of those people that died from it. And you never see him deal with his sister. And you never saw those, I don't think you ever saw those Sunday sit downs. You know what I'm saying? So John Layman is intertwining the stories together so you can see the point of view from Saffron.
I'm intrigued. I definitely want to see how that all plays out. I think I'm coming from an interesting point of view because again, I never read Chew, but it's still a very easy story to get into.
And I think it is a little bit before the initial time frame because you see Detective Chew's partner, and I forget his name, Kobe. And in the main series, he kind of gets messed up and he becomes like a cyborg, like the Terminator, right? And in this book right now, you don't see him that way. And this is right when they meet as partners. So they just became partners at this point. So it is taking place a little bit beforehand, but it is taking place at the start of that bird pandemic. So it's pretty interesting story, man. It is really good though. I like it.
We do have a comment from Andre. I think all the Marvel Nullified variants covers are fire. Do you think we may see all of them together as a team in the Venom arc? This is definitely a question for Mike. I'm not even getting King in Black, only the tie-ins.
Man, oh man. I know I looked at those Nullified variants. I don't think so. I don't think they're characters. I just think they're for the covers. We've seen that now with like the Phoenix variants. Like we have a Mortal She-Hulk variant. We had the Jane Foster Phoenix variant. So this is kind of the same thing. This is like the nullified variant, where you get to see your favorite characters as like a null character, right? So
we've seen that with Immortal before. We've seen that with Gwen Stacy. We've seen that with a lot.
Iron Man.
Yeah. I agree. I think you're right on that, which is cool. Yeah. I like that they do that, though. They're cool covers.
Right. You know, again, like Gwenpool was a cover, and look what happened to her. She wound up becoming a main character. So you could see something spawn out of it. You never know. All right. So let's talk about some more big books here. X of Swords tie-in, Marauders issue 14, and X-Men issue 14. So when it comes to X-Men, I always call it X of Swords, Ten of Swords, because always the X is there. So my brain naturally wants to say X.
I feel like most people call it X of Swords. Yeah.
So Ten of Swords, I did not like the X-Men issue at all. It was more. I think
it was on my bottom.
It was more of that, you know, lull before everything starts to ramp up.
Not null, but low.
Yeah. And it was more history lessons and what happened here and what happened there. And so I was like, yeah, okay, I'm tired of these issues. But I did like the Marauders issue. I thought that issue was kind of cool because it's the night before the battle happens and you get to feast. It's like that one last meal before the battle happens. And you get to see the X-Men meet the other characters. You get to see Storm's interaction with Death and what Death has meant to her over the years, which I thought was kind of cool. We get to see Wolverine, how he's pissed off about everything, and what he does to the main character at the end of the issue was quite interesting, right?
And I don't know where that's going. Is she actually dead? Because in this world, they actually die.
Right. And then, you know, the cool thing is I like how the X-Men and the mutants are like towing down the competition, trying to get a battle's edge. Is she right-handed? Is she left-handed? You know, I thought that was really cool. So this issue brought it up for me again, where I was just really at a boring state at this point.
Yeah, Marauders.
I didn't read it.
Oh, X of Swords is a great series so far. Very smart of Marvel to put it across a bunch of books to get us into more stories. I think some of them are, so far, the ones I've really enjoyed is Marauders and New Mutants. We'll see if New Mutants plays the same way, but I really like Marauders because last issue was all about Storm. It was very character driven, and here is also very character driven because a lot, as Mike said, has been exposition. What are these people about? I'm like, stop explaining things to me. I want to see it, and this is where you see it. And there's some exciting points finally in this issue as well. And just some good character beats, like Ileana doing that like drink trick was fun. And I definitely like Marauders, but it could also be because I've been reading Marauders and I've been liking that book. So I don't know if it's part of the X of Swords I'm liking or just, you know, the creative team.
Yeah. I like how they've done this event as well as it gets the crossover between all the books. I think that's pretty cool. You know, I know people have said, oh, they should do this with other events. Unfortunately, when it comes to other events, X-Men is the only one that has this amount of books that you can do that with. So that's why you have to have your own event. And then
maybe Batman for DC could do it.
Yeah, maybe Batman could do it for sure. Yeah.
Well, they did it with No Man's Land. That was like their thing, is that they did it through every book, but not just for 2 months. It was for a year.
Right.
So I expect that. So it's not a first time we've seen this before. I do think it makes the book a little slow, but I definitely don't mind it. I've been enjoying it.
I personally like the weekly format when it comes to these events, because then the story is fresh and you don't forget what's going on. That's why I liked Avengers No Surrender and what was the other one? The sequel to that one?
Yeah, No Home, something with
No
a home.
Road Home or something
Yeah.
like that. Because those ones came out weekly. So if you can write the story in advance and be able to release it weekly, then I think it just makes for a more cohesive story. You don't get burned out with it. And I just think it's better off that way, personally, in my opinion.
Mike, your mic went low again, only for a second since you talked, so I heard what you're saying.
Is it back or no?
No, I come back in and out, yeah.
I'll be back.
All right, Mike's gonna come back because sometimes that happens with his mic. But yeah, thanks guys for all the X of Swords thoughts. It's and also I saw a comment from Steve who said Marauders looks good. I may pick up the whole series now and add it to my pull list. It's been really good. That's like I've been picking up X-Men, but I've really been loving Marauders.
Marauders, that's been a good series. I've enjoyed it a lot. We're still unresolved with the whole Sebastian Shaw situation. Like, we have to get back to that once this whole event is over. Like, what is Kate going to do to him? Or what, not even her, but what is Emma going to do?
Ooh, Emma's, I'm so ready. That's the one disappointment, I guess, of X of Swords is, yeah, those stories have been slowed down. Not that it mattered for X-Men, because nothing was going on in X-Men, but something like Marauders, which did have a continuous story and has a big story to tell, it's been a little disappointing. But I mean, it's only been like another month, and then we'll be back with Kate, which I also think that's the reason why Kate's not really part of this event. Is because of the Shaw stuff and why Emma's not really part of this event.
Miguel Poole goes, again, the mic, LOL. I think it's StreamYard, man, because it happens like after a certain amount of time all the time. And I am not using my mic. Like, StreamYard doesn't allow me to use my mic for some reason when doing the stream. So I'm just using my phone. So all of a sudden it just decides not to work anymore.
Yeah, it's not even like you're touching it or anything. It just like, yeah, in the middle of the conversation, sometimes it happens.
So weird.
You have the fix when you go in and out. It usually works.
Yeah. All right. So any other comments we got before we get going, or are we good to go?
That's all I really saw.
Okay. All right. So the next one we're going to be talking about is Young Justice issue 20. So I thought this book was done. It's still going on. I don't read it anymore. What's happening?
Oh, nothing. Nothing happens in this book. And this one we have to see the Mount Justice that we had from the cartoon show up. And I think from the comics as well, from those old comics. And they hang out and they try to defeat Red Tornado for some reason, and then like have a campfire. It just was kind of classic Bendis for DC Comics, and it was whatever. It's what you expect with this book, sadly, even though I do think there is issues here and there that I enjoyed, and I don't regret picking it up because there's a lot of characters I love here, but it wasn't a great series, sadly.
Yeah, I was on it, off it, on it, off it. Wanted to like it. I could not deal with too much of not that much going on. That was my biggest problem, and I just felt like it was overloaded with characters. That was another issue I had. So they were all fighting for panel time, and it just wasn't my thing anymore. And I just could not afford to keep giving it the tries, right? So.
Oh yeah, understandable. If you didn't have if Stephanie Brown wasn't in this book, I don't know if I would have continued to go for it. But he writes Stephanie Brown actually pretty well, surprisingly. I think in a long time he's written Stephanie good.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. So I guess the only thing left that he'll be on now is Legion, right? That's all that he's going to be on?
I'm sure
his own books, I guess.
If Naomi ever comes back, which I hope it does, that would be nice. We actually we have some questions here. So sure. I missed by Jay's comment. If you become a superhero for a day, what will you do? I don't know.
I've answered this question in the past.
I don't know what I would. So you have answered it. What was your answer in the past?
It was the mind control thing, and
right.
I would listen. Honestly, I would not be a bad guy. I just would go mind control people, have them open the comic book store for me early, and just give me all the comic books for free. That's what I would do, and I would do everything
The
else.
super villain.
I know, no, but that's just the one thing, and then I would help everybody else do whatever else that they wanted.
Understandable, but I might be a little anti-hero there. Honestly,
Okay,
I don't know
okay.
what I would do. I don't know. I don't think I want superpowers. I think that's too much responsibility. He also asks, if you get a chance to live a comic book character's life, which one will you choose? I feel like all their lives suck. Like, that's why we read stories about them. Like, I don't know if I would want to be a superhero.
Dude, yeah, that's tough, man.
Like, I love Spider-Man. Wouldn't want to be him.
Tony Stark's got all the money in the world, but he's a drunk and
Yeah.
oh my God, that would be tough. Bruce Banner, he's the strongest creature, but he's always, people are always after him because he's a monster. Who else could you be?
No one likes Spider-Gwen. Kamala. I'd be Miss Marvel, except
Would you?
pre-outlawed, because outlawed, lots going on with her there. But I think she lives a pretty solid life as a
You
hero.
know what? I would be Deadpool, even though I hate Deadpool.
Not either.
I would be Deadpool because I could live forever and do whatever I want and never die. Would that be a curse? Maybe, but I get to be an idiot. I get to do whatever I want. I think I'd be Deadpool, at least for a day. I could deal with that. Right. All right. Let's talk about more comics. Let's see. Let's go on to our number 4. Number 4. Oh, book we already talked about. Black Widow, issue 3.
Nice. Mine is something I've been like on and off with. I'm like, should I drop it? But this actually picked up. That was Batman: The Adventures Continue, issue 6.
I didn't get a chance to read that book. It's one book I didn't read.
It was actually pretty good. I won't spoil it. But it's like in the Batman the Animated Universe, how did Death of the Family happen? Death in the Family happen. So that was kind of cool. And we get to see some Jason Tim stuff. So I thought it picked up a bit with this issue.
That's cool. That's cool. I would hope so. I was a little slow for a while.
Oh, yeah, really slow. I'm curious. I still don't know how long this book is. I think there's a Harley issue coming up, and Harley shows up in this issue too. But yeah, this was a super slow book. I like it because it's Batman the Animated Series, but at least finally like, oh, this is actually a good comic.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so going on to, that was our number 4. So we're going to talk about Thor issue 9. You don't read it, right?
I do not.
You do not. All right, so Thor is a really interesting book. It is about Dr. Donald Blake. You know who he is?
Yeah, he was Thor.
He was Thor. He's like the alter ego of Thor. So what happens is, have you ever wondered where this guy goes when he became Thor? Right. Well, Donny Cates created this different dimension where this guy goes when he became Thor. Okay. So that's what this story is about.
That is interesting. That's like definitely out of the box.
Right. And so you see him in this world, right, where he doesn't realize what's going on. He gets to talk to neighbors. He's walking down the street. The sun is shining. He's like, hey, George, what's up, buddy? Hey there, Bob. Nice lawnmower you got there. And he doesn't realize, like, how long he's been gone. It could be weeks, days, years, hours, whatever the case may be. And then when the time is right, he gets to go back. That's what it was. Well, think about it. All this time, Dr. Donald Blake has been stuck in this dimension or in this world. Well, what happens? And he has no recollection of anything, right? And then when he goes back, he doesn't remember anything. But what happens if Dr. Donald Blake remembers and he's trapped in this world and he wants out, right? So that's what happens in this book. So he's stuck in this world and he's wanted out. He's gone crazy. He starts killing the people. He's like, where's Thor? He's like, where the hell are you? He's just destroying everything in this world. And Thor is suffering going through his issues. You know what I'm saying about the hammer being heavy and everything else. And he goes, I want to go back there. He goes, I just need time away. And so when he goes back, he realizes that this world is messed up now. And Dr. Blake has come back to the main Earth, and he's battling Loki. And he snaps that staff in half, and now Thor is trapped in that world. And the world's gone to complete shit in hell. It's crazy. How it became that way, we don't know. We still don't know. And this is a 6-issue arc. Really great story, man. You talk about, thinking out of the box, bringing back fan service, like all that stuff. It's so good.
Also seems like a lot happens in that book all the time. I just feel like something's happening in Thor.
So it was really good. So what do we have in here for comments? The new Thor book was awesome. Love the story. Kind of cruel putting that guy in a loop. It is kind of bad, you know. Which multiverse is better, DC or Marvel?
I feel like that's tough.
I think that's a preference.
I think both me and Mike are gonna say Marvel because of our preferences.
Right. I think that's just a preference. My opinion is I think DC multiverse is cool, but there's so many of them, right? I mean, that's what's crazy about it. There's just a ton of them, and just everything that's happened is just, for me, it feels convoluted. Maybe it's because I'm not rich in that history, where Marvel just seems to be easier for me to understand. You know, and I feel like DC relies on the multiverse a lot. Am I right about that, Kat? Do I feel like?
Oh, 100%, especially with rebooting the universes. And I think with Marvel, what I like about, I mean, it's all Spider-Man, right? Like those are the multiverses you kind of enjoy. Like I like Spider-Gwen a lot. Obviously I love Mayday. I really, really liked Ultimate Spider-Man. And the reason I like them is because it is more about the characters than the world. I feel like the character circumstances is what created that world.
Right.
With DC, it's more about like, I think it's more about the world building, and then it's the characters. And also there's not as long running books with their multiverses. There's like, okay, you have Kingdom Come, and that was like a 12 issue. So I feel like it's always usually about the Prime universe, where Marvel gives opportunity for the multiverse a little bit more with their own books.
Yeah. I mean, when I look at multiverse stuff to Marvel, is like you said, Spider-Man stuff, like in the Ultimate Universe, when they had the Ultimate Universe, like that was their different version of for all the characters. And I feel like, you know, Marvel just doesn't have all that. And with DC, they have 52 different Earths, and they'll touch on every single one of them. And it's just, it gets to be a lot. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, but me, it's just a preference mainly because of Marvel. That's mainly me, you know. So we'll see what happens, you know, going forward also with DC, because now we got Future State. So that's another thing that's happening, you know.
Yeah,
so
what's going to happen
there? Yeah, what's going to happen after that? What's that going to bring to DC? That's going to add to the mix of things. All right. So we talked about Thor. I know there was a comment in there. It says, damn, sounds like Twilight Zone stuff. Might have to pick Thor back up again. I would recommend it. I mean, even if I would think when it comes to this story arc, I think at least give this story arc a try. It's 6 issues. The last 2 issues were kind of like kind of filler-ish issues, just kind of, you know, stall some time until we get this whole thing written. So definitely check it out.
I promise you, if Jane shows up, I'll pick it up.
Yeah, I'll let you know what happens. I think it's going to be a good one. All right. So Firepower issue 5 is the next book that we're going to talk about. What do you think? This one was good, man.
I love this freaking book. This book has not disappointed me. The pacing, speaking of pacing, is so freaking good for this book. The action, but then also the character development with the kids and them already finding out and leaving that other kid to the side. I thought the mom was awesome here. It was just a really well done issue.
The mom is a tough cookie, man. I mean, I know she's a cop, so she's used to dealing with all that stuff, but she took a sword to the side of her leg. You know what I'm saying? That was tough, but seeing the whole family get involved with the battle and whatnot was great. And like you said, they're like they got the kid in the back seat, and they're like, "Oh, what do we do with him? Drop him off. Let's skip town." I thought that was great. Firepower is a phenomenal book, and again, all the books that have these great character developments, this is what makes these books shine. This is what Robert Kirkman did with Invincible. This is what Robert Kirkman did with The Walking Dead. And now he's doing it again here with Firepower. These characters are not only, obviously they're with a dad that has this power to create a fireball, but it's a very grounded book. These characters are very relatable, and so that's what makes you get attached to them and like the book. In my opinion.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's about the family, which obviously Kirkman does a good job with. We did have a question from Steve White. Did we read the prequel trade? We did. Yeah.
Yes, and I think the prequel trade is what sold me for the series to read the next issue.
It was also really, really cheap. So it was during a week where nothing came out, and they also released a free comic book day, so you got it for free.
Yeah. So I mean, the trade was, you look at it, wow, you're like, wow, that's ass backwards. How you release a trade when a series has not even come out with? But you know what? It set the tone early. It made you get vested into who Owen Johnson was, and it made you want to continue reading that book after that trade. And I'm like, man, maybe more comics should do that, because again, if you release a cheap trade for $10 and it gets you invested in that character that's worth 5 issues, that's a good starting point.
It goes back to the comment we had an hour ago. If you want to keep this comic book industry alive, you have to do new things and you have to get people excited. And Kirkman did something really new and got people really excited. Because if you like Walking Dead, you found out that Firepower was coming out for free. Why wouldn't you walk into a comic book store and get it for free? And maybe you would throw in a trade. Maybe some stores put a better sale for the trade because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So that was our Firepower talk. And so DC's Dead Planet issue 5 is the next one. So did you drop it?
I did officially drop it. Yeah. And also I'm dropping, because we didn't have this last week, I'm dropping Strange Academy. Just can't do that one.
I'm really thinking about dropping it too. I just don't think it meets what I'm looking for right now.
Too many characters. Too much going on.
Well, okay, so going back to Young Justice, right? When it comes to Strange Academy, a lot of characters on panel. They're all grabbing your attention. Who do you connect to? They don't capture your attention real well. It's like, who are you relatable to? Again, they're all. It's just tough. And then I don't really see like a real plot developing yet.
Oh, not at all.
Being in the school, am I right?
There's some mysterious figures watching them, but that is not enough for me to pick up more, because that was that issue where I was like, oh, I'm kind of done, because they were just exploring New Orleans, and I'm like, that was cool, but we're up to issue 5 or issue 4 now, and I don't think I know anybody, and it all feels crowded because of the artwork too. The art, and I like Humberto Ramos's style, but just because there's so much going on, it kind of feels not messy and art wise, but just maybe like claustrophobic, I guess is the best way to put it. So I'm dropping that. Going deceased, the reason I dropped that is not for a similar vein, because I think the character moments are good. It's just like, it doesn't have much of a direction since they've announced this cure. I feel like they don't want to get to the cure. So they're like, we got to get this cure, but we're not actually going to do it. And I don't like magic characters very much. And I feel like they've been focusing a lot on Constantine for this volume. And it's interesting. And I said this before, the web comic, the digital comic, looks a lot more up my alley than the one that's coming out printed. And I kind of wish that was the printed book.
Right. Yeah, we had to see Constantine go on a quest, but he went on a quest with Swamp Thing, Damian, who is obviously Batman in this world, Red Hood, Jason, and Rose. And Rose and Jason wind up getting married. they're married in there,
man.
and they actually fight together, which is kind of cool. And you know, again, spoiler since you're not reading it, but spoiler to all the other viewers who haven't actually read it yet. But Jason dies in this issue, and so it was
That's sad for Rose.
Yeah, and so it was kind of a sad moment, you know, because those two made a really good couple, and they had some great character moments in this book. Probably the best in a while. So I really enjoyed this issue, and by the time you wind up getting to the end of it, there was some great losses in this book, and but it did help them achieve what they needed to achieve here. So I thought it was a good issue. I thought it was better than some of the previous ones that came out. So good stuff there. DC's Dead Planet is a cool book. I'm digging the story, and the art on the covers is awesome. That I can definitely tell you, Steve, they are very good. You know, whether
the variant covers are really cool.
Yeah, they had that Swamp Thing variant cover, which was really cool. All right, so let's move on to number 3. My number 3 was actually Crossover, so we definitely talked about that book.
Mine was Black Widow, so we talked about it.
All right, so let's talk about. I did not like this book. Let's talk about U.S. Agent issue 1.
I'll be back in a second. I do want to hear, but you can catch me up. Hold on.
Curious on what you guys thought about U.S. Agent if you actually read this one. I was definitely not a fan of it. I'll get into it when Kat does come back. Looking at comments, though, Lucy M. Star says, spoiler, I did not pick up Strange Academy. Is it because you missed the issue, or did you drop it? Let's see. Steve says the 5C cover of Wonder Woman is nice. And Kumar says, which publication is doing good? I mean, which publication? Well, I guess some of them, Marvel, DC, I don't know. And Lucy M. Star says, it doesn't hurt so much. Strange Academy isn't my jam. I was more into Doctor Strange. I definitely am not into magic books to begin with. So if a magic book does not appeal to me, I'm not going to give it too long of a try. And so that's why I'm on the verge of dropping Strange Academy as well.
Well, I think the big issue with that one, too, is that you didn't focus on any of the main characters that you might have gotten interested in, like Magic or Scarlet Witch or Doctor Strange. They don't really appear in the book, so it's a little harder to get into because everyone's new.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it definitely makes it hard. All right, so U.S. Agent, what'd you think about this?
I didn't read it, so that's why I'm like really curious to hear. Yeah, I was like, oh,
I did not like this book because, one, the art for me was very weak, so it took me out of the story. 2, I found it very odd that U.S. Agent is kind of, I don't know, he's sitting at his house. He's capturing pizza delivery guys. I guess he's thinking that they were spies or his partner or whatever the case may be. And he all of a sudden goes out into this mission. I don't even remember what happens because I was so, like, not into this book. I just didn't like the way the dialogue was. The plot wasn't very interesting to me. It just was a very forgettable comic book. And I thought it would be maybe a little bit more serious toned. All as I know is it looks like he has a significant other that he remembers, or a sister or whatnot that is maybe an enemy against him. I just didn't like this book. It just wasn't. It wasn't for me. Yeah, he got a partner and he was flying to some site. I don't know. It just wasn't
sound too fun.
It wasn't good at all. Steve White says exploding pizzas. Yeah, it was. It was just weird how he just captured all these people and tossed them into this basement. then he finally found the right guy that was going to be his partner. He was like this undercover guy. And then they wind up going on this mission together. Something it just wasn't my cup of tea. I didn't get it. I didn't get the storytelling here. So I'm just not reading it anymore. Dessert says crossovers in my pull list. Is it in yours, guys? Yeah, we had a whole conversation about crossover earlier. If you just want to rewind it or watch it on the playback, but yeah, it's definitely on our pull list going forward.
For sure.
All right. So definitely, I don't recommend U.S. Agent. If you like it, that's great, but not my cup of tea. All right. So I talked about a book that I read and you didn't. You're going to talk about a book that you read and I didn't.
Yeah, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Not I really like Buffy. I really like it as a franchise, but I haven't been loving the comic. I feel a lot of things are rushed. I've seen all Buffy, but I think this is a good opportunity for new readers or new viewers or whatever to get into the book. And they expect you to watch every episode of Buffy, and then they do plot twists and changes very quickly. So I feel like they rely on your viewership of Buffy more than telling an organic, well-paced story. You know, tonight we're talking about some really well-paced books like Firepower or Black Widow. Buffy is the complete opposite. It's not very well-paced. I don't want to drop it. I've dropped Angel, but I think it's kind of getting to that point I might drop Buffy soon. I'm trying to give it a little longer, but it hasn't wowed me in a while.
Gotcha. No, sometimes you got to look at comics and you got to sit there and go, can I see myself reading this 5 issues from now? Right?
Yeah.
So it's like Buffy, you might be like, Strange Academy. You're like, I read 4 issues of this and I still don't have any idea what's going on. So do I give it another 5 issues? You know what I'm saying? Then you're just pushing it along. So, yeah, there's some books you just, at the point you gotta be like, I just gotta let it go.
Oh yeah, and you know that point. And it's interesting because I feel like we get a lot from the commenters, or I see a lot of comments where they're like, people say like, you have to read 3 issues of a book to give it a chance. And I don't like putting that number on me. If I read an issue 1 and I really don't like it and I don't find anything fascinating about it, I don't really want to get issue 2 and waste my money. I'd rather give a chance to another book that I might not tried. Like I don't want to say Stillwater because I probably would have tried that book. Scumbag is a good example. Like I wasn't going to read that book and I ended up loving it. But if I picked up Strange Academy again, then maybe I wouldn't have room to try out a book like Scumbag. So I think in your gut, when you want to drop a book, and I'm usually pretty good at letting things go when it's needed.
Right. Yeah, some stories are tough though to drop at that 1 issue mark. I guess if it's not your like cup of tea type of storytelling, then you would say you would probably drop that issue. Like U.S. Agent, like I don't like the way that story is told. So it could pan out to be a much better story in the future, but after that first issue, I just don't see myself reading it. I was bored while reading it the whole way through. So it's just like, I'm not going to continue it. Now, if someone says in the future, wow, U.S. Agents really picked up, then I might try it again, But when it comes to like more of like an independent story, like say Crossover that has a story that it has to tell and it takes some time, that's where I tend to give it a little bit more time because you don't always get that full story being told in that first issue, right? So,
and I think it depends on like if you read Crossovers and you literally didn't like one thing you read in it, then I say don't read it because you're probably not going to like the thing you're going to read in issue 2. But if there's something that gravitated you, even if it wasn't a perfect issue, then it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to read issue 2, especially for an indie. I think, and not just because of like money wise, but I think because it's not a superhero book. It's there's a point A, point B, point C. It's a beginning, middle, and end. So I say give those a bit more of a try. But like I said, I think in your gut if you like it or not.
Yeah. And there's a comment here.
Yeah, I see a couple of comments.
Lucy says, Christopher Priest is a well-known writer, is he not? Yeah. I mean, that's why I picked it up. But the introduction to John Walker, the U.S. agents, it's not like wasn't anything mind blowing at all. It was like it's so average for me, you know.
I don't even know why there is a U.S. agent book. I'm also a little confused of, how they. But that's what I also like about Marvel is that they give a chance to books you would never imagine, like
Right.
We also have a question from Lucy. Would you compare Scumbag with Snot Girl? No. Completely.
You were a huge fan of Snot Girl, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, and if you mean compare it to like myself, no. Snot Girl is the best. That's like one of my favorite comics of all time. So like I like Scumbag. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed the first issue, but it's not comparable to Snot Girl. I love Snot Girl.
What do you think? I know you were a huge fan of Revival. What would you think? Revival or Snot Girl?
Revival, I would say, because Snot Girl comes out like once every 2 years.
Yeah.
Revival came out once a month.
U.S. Agent was a weird read for me. Didn't like it, so I dropped it. Yeah, I can understand that. Which horror comic book is your favorite? Wow.
Revival. That's a really good. Well, I don't know if it. I guess it's a horror book. Revival and American Vampire.
Yeah, mine was. I mean, if you want to call it that, at first it was Walking Dead, but I want to say when you read the comment right below it, can't wait for Immortal Hulk issue 40 next week.
Yeah,
Immortal Hulk is my current horror book. Like when you read issue 39, did you not feel like Halloween was happening right in front of you? Like,
oh yeah,
that book was disgusting. Like, oh my God, the leader was so creepy and freaky, and like what he did, and just, oh my God, that was such an awesome read. I love the artwork in that book.
Yeah, it's such a twisted book. It's psychological. It's visually amazing. Another book. Well, first I want to say 2 comments. MT says DC's Joe Hill's books. I know that Mike had some favorites. I really liked Basket Full of Heads from there, so I agree with that.
Yeah, Dollhouse Family was good.
Oh yeah, I hope DC does more of those. I don't know if they will after changing directions. But I was gonna say Red Mother. I think is a really perfect example of well done horror. Love.
But
Red Mother.
we don't. It's a horror book, supernatural book. It's a mystery. It's all those elements in one.
We have another question from Tevia, which is actually might be a harder question. What is your favorite superhero comic? And we won't do of all time. Let's just do current because that's hard. I'm not going to do all time. But is there a favorite pure superhero book out there right now? Pure superhero book. Because it's hard because I think both me and Mike would love to say Spider-Man, but it's not.
Oh my God, it's so far from it right now.
Oh man, Batman's been really good. And Captain Marvel, Black Widow.
It's so hard to think of these off the top of my head when I got like 1,000 comics sitting right in front of me.
It's also harder with superhero books. So I think a lot of the books, at least from what I've been seeing, that we've been enjoying this year are things that are not purely superhero.
Yeah. I think I've enjoyed a lot of independence this year. And whatnot. I mean, and then there's other books like, say, Thor, for instance, this year. We're on issue 9 of that. I mean, and in this Thor book, though, he's not your typical superhero, though. You know what I'm saying?
Is it even a superhero book? I don't know.
Right. So
it's like a cosmic book, sci-fi.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. That's a tough question. It's hard to answer that. I'll have to stew on that a little bit.
Good question, though.
All right. So let's move forward. Speaking of superheroes.
Oh, no.
Oh, we got to go to number 2 first, right?
Oh, yeah. We didn't do number 2.
Well, my number 2 was a book we talked about. Mine was Firepower.
Mine, too. I feel like we've always been in agreement with Firepower as well. Like, it's usually our same ranking for Firepower.
Yeah, Firepower is the shit. If you guys have not read that, man, like we said earlier, read Firepower. Such a great book. All right, now let's talk about The Amazing Spider-Man issue 51 LR.
What an issue. It's kind of gotten to a point where I'm below 3 stars now. It's a 2.5-star book. Sad.
The ending ruined it for me 100% when we got to see Moreland.
Oh, that was so stupid. I'm like, why? Why is he here?
I'm like, out of all characters, why are we bringing back Moreland? I am so tired of this guy. Like, why is he here? No, that made the whole story arc even worse now. Like, we have a villain that was, brought to us, and he's Harry Osborn, and now we have freaking Moreland. That
yeah. And what is he going to do? And the thing I really didn't like about this issue is that once again, I feel like nothing has happened in this book. Spider-Man, I don't even know, really appeared in this issue.
What was he fight? Wasn't he fighting more of the bad guys, the demons?
Are they I don't even remember. He was so unmemorable in this issue because you have a lot of Sin Eater. You had some of MJ, which I didn't mind. Like, I like the MJ stuff, but Black Cat was in here. Which, again, didn't mind seeing her, but I'm like, why is she here now?
Unfortunately, this was like my second to worst issue this week.
Me too. It was low on my list.
Sin Eater was in here. We find out that he still has his followers, right? We get to see TV screen happening. We get to see 2 pages of the news where the Spider family is destroying everything, right? We get a recap of things that have happened in the past with Black Cat. Doctor Strange comes and captures the hand of whatever it's called. Then we get to see, Mary Jane on the bridge. Then someone hits Mary Jane with the car. Was that what it was? Someone smashes the car.
Oh, because I think he was going to go off the driver, and someone smashes the car.
So there's a lot of nothing going on. Mary Jane needs rescuing. And what is it? Norman Osborn goes and rescues her. So that was that.
I like the panel of that because I'm like, but we know where that's going. We know it's like, he's going to use her to get to Harry, and she's going to be his therapist. So we know where that one's going. And I was just so disappointed. Like I said, even the artwork was kind of lackluster, felt rushed. I was just so disappointed with this book. Who knew a book where like MJ appears and she's good in it? Just was such a lackluster issue.
The last person I would expect to be here is Moreland now.
Oh yeah, and are we going to get Spider-Verse stuff now? Like,
well, you're already there. You're already there. You
got the other characters.
So now you have this going on. So this is such. Unfortunately, this is repetitive storytelling. Pretty quickly, I get that Nick Spencer's been on here for a while, and I guess it's been 2 years or so since we've seen Moreland. But it's like he was in the last major event, and I don't think I want him back. Like, he's in too much. And
there's no reason for him to be here. There's literally no reason for it. Like, there was no story thread from that last event where they're like, let's bring it in with Green Goblin.
To even hint him back, right? Like, if Nick Spencer was writing this, was he like, everyone loves Moreland, we're gonna bring him back, and everyone's gonna be like, yeah, all right. No, man, like, he's been so overused. Like, I don't want to see him back again in another Spider event. Yeah,
I'm so I really hate that. Every issue I'm getting more disappointed with this series because there was a time just a couple months ago that I really liked this series. I thought Nick Spencer was doing a really good job, but it really broke the camel's back with the Kindred stuff. That really is what brought it down.
I really liked Spider-Man 2 in the beginning because it made Spider-Man feel like Spider-Man again. And I'm all for dark storylines. Like, I'm fine if you go to a story arc that's dark. But I feel like what's happened now is Nick Spencer's lost his way. And I just feel like whatever happened now to Boomerang, right? We haven't seen him in a little while.
True.
We haven't
seen him anytime soon.
Yeah, we haven't seen who was his roommate?
What is his name?
Robbie?
Rob, I think, is that the son's name?
Yeah, maybe.
Do they have the same name?
I don't know. I don't know, but see, you never see that. You never see him in their apartment anymore. Like you never saw any of that fun stuff, right? The last fun book I think you had was when it was Jay Jonah and Spider-Man arguing at it when they're doing that podcast, which was really cool. And those elements of Spider-Man was a lot of fun. And then we get this, and this is just dragged on too long, way too long.
Yeah. Sad to see it.
All right. So what do we got for comments with this one?
I think mostly people agreed. Some people dropped it, which I'm sad.
I dropped Spider-Man around issue 36. I've been going ham on Spider-Man. I like the series. I have not been disappointed. However, if I could critic, I didn't want Kindred to be outed. Kindred should have been left nameless. What is your comic book, movies, and TV show adaptation is your favorite? You have one, Kat?
Into the Spider-Verse.
Well, that was good.
And Runaways. I really like the Runaways TV show.
I would rather see Harry's wife come back.
That'd be cool if that's part of the plan.
Right.
I'd be interested in that.
I think she was the Gray Goblin or Goblin Queen. Let me take a look. I remember that. Was it? Who was Menace? Remember Menace?
Yes, but I don't remember much of her.
I forgot who she actually was. Was she
Menace Marvel Comics? I don't remember. Menace was. I feel like there's been so many Goblin Queens. Lily Hollister, I believe. Yes, that was the wife. Yeah.
That's who it was. Yep, yeah. Menace is Harry's wife. Yep. Yeah, man.
That'd be cool.
Spider-Man needs something different, I think, unfortunately. Or just end this storyline and move on.
Give us MJ.
Yeah. Are you both excited for the animated Invincible series coming to Amazon next year?
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. Definitely. All right. So let's talk about our number one book now. So my number one is Thor issue 9. We definitely talked about it. And what is yours?
Mine was the other Donny Cates book, Crossover.
Sweet. Nice. I'm glad you liked it. I wasn't sure how you were going to take it, but I'm glad you liked that storytelling.
Yeah, I hope it continues in this vein and gives us some good character stories.
Cool. All right, so the book that it looks like that I'm dropping this week is going to be U.S. Agent. I don't think I'm going to be reading it. It's not high enough on my list to give it a second issue when I have so many other books to read, right? So it's just going to be dropped. All right. So now we'll go on to our most anticipated comics. We have Marauders.
Yeah. Already?
Yeah, I know, right? So we got that coming out. We obviously talked about that issue. So does it look like now we're going to see the outcome of what happened to what's her face, Saturine? Is that the way you say her name?
Who knows? I just call her the girl who looks like Emma Frost. She does.
Oh, yeah, it's cool. Obviously, now we have the continuation of Spider-Man that we just talked about. So, Amazing Spider-Man issue 52. This promises to be probably the biggest battle ever.
Oh. You know what I'm also kind of don't like is that 2 issues are coming out at once. I hate this LR numbering. It makes absolutely no sense of why we have it. It's the same book. It's continuing the story, so it's not like
it's dragging out the story so much.
So, but they're just parts. They're not like you have to read the LR issues and you have to read the regular issues.
Yeah,
so makes no sense. But yeah, now you're getting 2 of them in 1 week, which is I'll read it. Obviously, I love my Spider-Man, but might be too much for me.
Magnificent Miss Marvel issue 16. So you're still reading this?
Yeah, I mean, I'll always pick up Miss Marvel. I don't really like this arc. I didn't really like this creative team, but it is ending soon. Sadly, that Ms. Marvel's ending, but also, again, didn't love this creative team.
What's going on?
What happened?
Oh, no, I'm reading these comments. It says, so bring her back. Maybe it's Harry's wife, so bring her back. If you're going to do something with Harry, progress the story. His story is more than just being Norman's son. Did you get your secret variant crossover? Oh, no, I didn't get that crossover.
I didn't either.
I am furious now. I'm punching the damn screen. Going to put it down and relax.
Oh, man. Well, calm down. Settle down. Don't get too angry.
All right, next we got Punchline Special, issue 1. Important book, I think, because this is going to give you a lot about what Punchline is, where she came from. And I think it's a very defining book, I think, for the character, and if people are really going to latch on to her going forward.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to pick this up. Interested to see where it's going to go. I mean, I don't love Punchline. Definitely don't dislike her, but I'm interested to see where she goes. I think she's an interesting character.
Yeah, absolutely. 7 Secrets, issue 4. Another good book from Tom Taylor.
Goes back to how great the indies have been. The new indies, especially this year.
Absolutely. New book that should have came out like months ago. Right when the Black Widow book came out. So this is taking some time to come out. Taskmaster, issue 1. I'm definitely going to check this out. I love that villain. I love his power set. I love how he can master every move that you do. So I want to check out his story and see what it's about.
I will not, but you'll have to let me know.
It's a mini. American Vampire, 1976, issue 2. I didn't read the first one.
Yeah, I wouldn't if you've never read it. It's not a new reader friendly book. I think they've said it is, but I personally don't feel it is. I recommend reading the old stuff if you want to get into American Vampire. But if you've been enjoying American Vampire, it's been a good new chapter. And I love the franchise.
Cool. All right, next we have a book that we do both read, and that's Red Mother, issue 10.
Ended really well last issue.
Looks like we might find out more about what's going on with Daisy in this issue.
Mm-hmm. We had some what was the, I guess a goon we'll call him, attack her, and that was the end of that issue. So I think we're picking up the speed with this one, and I love Red Mother. It's so good. Pick it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. You guys like horror books. This is a book that I think you would like, right? All right. And a book I'm definitely not picking up. That's Power Rangers issue 1. So we have a new series here.
Yeah. So this one's focusing on the Omega Rangers, and again, I'm excited for it. I've been liking Power Rangers, so I'll be picking it up, but I don't know how new reader friendly it'll be.
It's funny. We just had a thought. What are your thoughts on Red Mother and Power Rangers?
Maybe this guy has our doc somehow.
Yeah, right. I know. Red Mother, phenomenal book. Like, read that first trade, read it from there. Love the whole element of seeing red. Love the mysteriousness of it. Love how we don't know if it's supernatural or she's suffering from PTSD. There's just so many great elements, and the pacing of it is phenomenally done as well.
Mm-hmm.
And me, for Power Rangers, it's not Morphin Time for me, baby. I'm keeping that book on the shelf.
The only Power Rangers book I could see Mike liking was the one that Brant liked, which was the TMNT.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one.
The other stuff is a little bit too Power Ranger-y for people that don't like Power Rangers.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So that is all the comic books that we're going to be talking about. So we're going to close off the show. We're just going to talk about a little bit about ourselves and what's going on. Kat, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I'm just going to read this comment, and then I'll talk about my Kickstarter and all that. Southern Comic Geek says, I got American Vampire. It was interesting, but I got the feeling it would have been better if I understood more if I read the old stories. Oh, yeah, for sure. But yeah, getting into it. guys, we have the like Follow Like Daughter. My comic book Kickstarter is live. I'm really happy with how it's doing, and this is the second day. You only have a few hours left to get the early bird special, so I'm gonna scroll down to that and early bird special just to see 13 more hours to go for early bird, and that is you get the issue 7 for half off, so it's only $5 to check out the first issue. Issue 7, sorry. And early bird catch up. So if you never read like Follow Like Daughter before, you could get it digitally for $20. It's about a high school girl. Father left her, become a full-time superhero. Everyone in the world loves him except for her. And then she inherits his abilities. And just to show you guys some of these awesome variant covers, we got some really cool artwork here. This is from the Suicide Squad concept artist from the movie. That's my hero, the father, Invulnerable. Then we got the Lofi hip hop homage with Casey and her friends, kind of anime-ish. And then they're all my favorites, but this is the thumbnail from Paper Cats. Jessica, which is Casey's mom's, hiding in the corner. We got Casey in a suit. That's kind of crazy, and a goon being kicked there. So hopefully you guys can go support. And like I said, early bird special is only until tomorrow at like 1. And also for Comic Book Weekly viewers, if you just write down hashtag Comic Book Weekly in the comments, or you just message me that you backed it, I will give you a free issue. They call her Dancer issue 1, which is my other comic. It's a digital comic that I would give you. And it's about a dancer/assassin who witnessed her parents being murdered when she was younger, and now she has to deal with that PTSD. So if you like Red Mother, maybe you like The Dancer as well, if you like psychological stories. But hopefully you guys go check this out. Yes, I will be sharing this Kickstarter every episode. So I'd really appreciate if you guys get it. And just for $1, you can get 9 free digital comics. And hint, there's going to be a lot more free comics you can get. So even if you support at $1, that'd be awesome as well. And that's it for me. I mean, that's enough. Oh, I guess I'll also promote Brant's Kickstarter. So go check out Brant's Kickstarter as well. It's for Last Ember. It's his comic book. It's not live yet, but it's going to be live in a few days. So please follow that page so you could get those tiers right away.
There you go. So there's all your Kickstarters. Me, I don't have any Kickstarters, but what I do have is I have YouTube videos. So you guys can check that out right here on Comic Book Corner 2.0, the ones that are watching on Comic Book Corner 2.0. Remember, we stream this on 2 channels. One's on Comic Frontline. One is, again, here on Comic Book Corner 2.0. You guys can check out my Comic Book Day haul video. That's going to air tomorrow. Always a fun time to see what I pick up at the comic book shop. And then on probably Sunday, you guys can see the newest video series I have, which is the final cutoff, where I show you some of the key and newest and hot books that will be coming out. And you're going to want to order them before that cutoff date, because it's not guaranteed from that point forward. And obviously on Mondays, you can check out my top 10 comic book covers of the week. And on Tuesdays, you can check out my top 10 most anticipated comic books for next week, because it's never too early to start that pull list. So guys, there are my videos. There's Cat's Kickstarters. There's Brant's Kickstarters. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode of Comic Book Weekly. We had a lot of fun putting it together for you and bringing it to you. And hopefully we'll see you guys next week. And until next time, guys, be safe and have fun. Enjoy those comic books. Have a good night, everyone.